pleasure to be reconnecting with you, Irina, right? And I think it's almost, 12 years now. And I should say I'm very happy to see you where you are from where I had seen you, right? It's been a tremendous ride. Tell me a little bit about what got you on this ride to success, Irina.
Great. And pleasure again, Venkat. And I had been looking forward to this conversation. Of course, been a long time, and it was a good time to kind of connect back with you as well. So I guess, you would have seen Microsoft in its evolution journey. So we pivoted a few times from what it was, say, 20 years back. I actually just completed my 20 years a couple of months back. And from what it was when I joined to where we are now. And the part which you would have possibly heard Satya talk about, the part of this growth mindset, I think I lived it.
Beautiful.
So in the last, I would say 5 years, it was an accelerated curve. And in the 5 to 8 years of my overall last as many years in Microsoft, I literally lived it, because when the company pivoted from being, say, coming from a product company, product software company, to going to the service space, becoming a solution-oriented company, going to cloud, digital acceleration, and then all the solution areas, it was an immense era in which I had to kind of learn, unlearn, accelerate my process, make it real by being in front of the customers. That was one important thing. And the other part in my career journey, when I look at all my years out here, I really think that taking an unconventional route at time literally pays off. Because what happens is that you don't go in for a role, but the capability that you learn in that journey, that is invaluable. So I remember 2 stints. One is when I took an international role and went across to Redmond for 9 months. And initially I was like thrown across into the water, and I didn't know what hit me. But the skills that I learned, incredibly smart people all around you. And then you knew how to navigate, you knew how to kind of get across to a point of view and put across your narrative and everything put together and drive a business at a global scale. Another stint that I did was when I led education in India. I didn't know about education as a domain, neither did I know public sector.
Wow.
But I think what happened is that when I met my first customer, I told him, sir, that was in the undersecretary of in the secondary education. And I told him, I have not known much about the domain. He asked me, have you been a student? I said, yes. He said, then you know the domain. So that's how I learned. So I think those 2 parts is what has really kind of got me here.
Beautiful. And no prizes for guessing who was the first industry leader for education for Microsoft.
Of course.
Very nice, very nice. That's close to the heart, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Tell me about how you learn, Irina, right? Because there is so much of change that is happening. How do you keep yourself updated? I see all the books you keep posting, but I'm sure there is more to Irina than that.
I would say 2 parts to it, actually. One is on the technology side, because that is what is required as a part of my core job. And second is to be aware, essentially, about what's happening. So a good thing which happened for us at Microsoft was also this quotient or thing that we followed across for the tech intensity. And when it came across, I literally plunged into it. So I was, say, about 7-8 years back, I was doing a role which was strategy, operations, execution, and planning. And then I wanted to get into leading the technical sales solution area, which needed a lot of technical depth. Now I knew I didn't have it. So but I had a flair for it. So I just got myself into doing a lot of these certifications and plunging myself into deep learning. So it was literally back like college days. You would be kind of going through trainings, courses, writing, getting prepared for the exams, going there, and then, coming out with your credentials, which would be really fulfilling. So that is one part of it. And the second part, which I definitely do, is listening to. I'm a person who's on the move generally, so reading, yes, I do the digital newspapers in the morning, but I kind of keep myself abreast with a lot of these podcasts and everything, and they are a boon for me. And since I run, I keep on kind of listening to them very, very often, just to be on top of things.
Very good. Give us some examples, Irina. What kinds of books, what kinds of podcasts? Because I'm sure, I mean, a lot of people hearing this podcast may say, hey, give us some clues, right? What could those be?
So let me give a sense of the books first as well. Now, I'm a person who actually does a mix of 50-50% of both fiction and non-fiction. And I really get indulged. I indulge myself into fiction also because it kind of gets me into that storytelling zone.
Exactly.
And I really like it. And on the non-fiction part, of course, I do a lot of these things about biographies and the things about the things which are relevant for an entrepreneurial culture. So no rules. The hard things about hard things. So those kind of books, they kind of give you, I would say, techniques and tactics which you can play here and now in what you are doing. So those are the kind of things which I really indulge myself in. And the part that I kind of go across to, say, for the podcast. So there are a few of them which I, of course, listen on a regular basis. But the ones which I kind of keep across as a part of my library are things like, one is the Hidden Brain. That is something Shankar Vedantam kind of puts across, and there are deep nuggets of philosophy which comes across in that. Then there's this Art of Manliness I like. Then there is the one which Reid Hoffman puts across. Then there's a Geek Wire. So these are ones which I really kind of keep on watching. The one that Reid Hoffman puts across is called Masters of Scale. So those are the ones. Then there's an HBR Idea Cast. So these are the ones which kind of keep a lot into the thinking zone. And see, what happens is that when you listen to these, you execute some of them.
Correct.
When you listen to something else, you execute something more. So that keeps you on the edge of doing things with which you're kind of changing and renewing yourself as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think it's just the diversity that helps you make those connections, right? Multiple different things, and then it's actually aiding you. Now, one is about yourself and how you are becoming better, Irina, but then one is also shaped by their own managers.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of your best managers, Irina. What did you learn from them?
Yeah. I must say that I've had the privilege of having really good and many good managers. So that's something I would really say that I've been lucky on that front. But two things which I learned from them, which I kind of have taken forward, is one is having the people connect. And a lot of times I have kind of gone by the philosophy of lead from the front. But I literally realized that for me, what worked was a good balance of lead from the one front while you push from the back. So I literally didn't want to leave anybody behind. So that's something that I kind of have taken as a philosophy. That's one. The second part is wearing the customer's shoes. And a lot of times when, say, customers would be calling, either you will want to have the answer or else you will want to put somebody in front who will have the answer. But I've literally realized that it's being there with the customer when they need you. And it's not just for creating the vision, the big picture and those kind of things, because that you will of course be there. When the things aren't going right and they need you because their mission critical applications are not working, how do you navigate around those? That's equally and critically important.
Very nice.
And the last one I would say I've learned is be humble, be aspirational.
Beautiful. That goes without saying for Irina, right? Very nice. Very nice. That's important. But tell me something also, Irina. You now manage the cloud business.
Yeah.
And that's as wide as the cloud, right? So there is no boundaries there. Right? And people say you have to balance depth and breadth.
Yes.
Correct? How do you do that, Irina?
Yeah, so a lot of times people ask me also this about being a generalist or versus going deep into one area, right? I think the way customers are looking at solving their business problem, and possibly the pandemic has accelerated that even more. In the last 24 months, everybody wants to get an end-to-end picture
Mm,
about what it will bring to them if they do something, right?
mm, mm,
So what happens is that inevitably you will be thinking of adjacencies of your story. If
mm,
you're taking across a security solution, what does it do to your productivity, and where
mm.
will the data be kind of feeding by, which infrastructure it will be going across? So luckily, again, because of the privilege of leading all the solution areas, I
Mm.
kind of got a lot into the storytelling narrative, right? Because
Very
at the end
nice.
of the day, the technology will do things, but
Mm,
how this entire story will help solve things for what it will mean for my customer's customer,
mm,
right? So
mm,
that's the part which becomes very important. And
mm,
what I typically do is I try to learn by use cases, in
mm.
terms of what is it in the customer's use case scenario that I'm literally trying to solve.
Very
And
good.
hence, to solve that, you need an array of various things which you take to the customer to solve it. And that definitely brings back the thing in terms of stitching the entire story, connecting the dots, and then kind of taking it back.
Beautiful, beautiful. You mentioned storytelling, Irina, correct? And I mean, both of us know that visualization and storytelling are some of the important elements because we sacrifice so much to the logical and rational that we
Yes.
don't get the right side of the brain to work,
Yeah.
right? How did you manage that? I mean, this visualization, storytelling, Irina, how did you develop that skill?
I would say it came somewhere in a part of my overall journey,
Hmm.
which I didn't know.
Hmm.
And I realized when I started writing.
Very nice.
And when I started writing, I remember the first time I was writing my first LinkedIn blog. That was about 5 years back. I remember because I'd finished my 15 years in Microsoft. And I was like, I was very nervous, very edgy, thinking the world is watching my next blog to come out, which wasn't, of course, the case. But once I wrote it, I realized that, I had a flair of a narrative which was kind of growing up, because you were kind of reading things, and writing got me to realize that the part of the storytelling was there,
Very good.
which I didn't realize as well. And which is what I tell people as well, that all of us have that element of storytelling, but we just, when we are verbalizing the conversation, you never get to know that you are a storyteller. But the minute you start writing something and then publishing it, whatever, be that small blog, 2 paragraphs, etc., something as a note to your team, or something which you're speaking across externally, that is when you realize that, yes, there is an image that you have and a story. I must also say that, when I speak to my team members, whenever there is a planning, brainstorming conversation, all my kickoffs start with a story.
Oh,
So,
wow. You mastered the art now.
yes, yes. The messages are all through stories of events, people, etc. And people will actually remember my story,
Hmm.
and hence the message, and never the other way around. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Beautiful. Beautiful. In addition to all of this, Irina is a coach as well.
yes.
How did that come about, Irina?
For this, I would say that I'm really grateful to Microsoft, because there was a program called Super Coach, which was happening out here for about 100 coaches, creating 100 super coaches across the globe.
Hmm.
And I happen to be from India.
Very
And the intent was to create super coaches in turn who can get the coaching culture deep within.
good.
So, of course, it was a very, very rigorous and arduous journey, because you have
Hmm.
to invest in those 60 hours first getting coached, then 100 hours of coaching different people. So the 60 hours, of course, we could do it because you'll either attend, or else you could kind of listen to the recordings and do the submissions.
Hmm.
The 100 hours of coaching was not as easy, because you have to go behind people and coach them. I literally
Come, let me coach you.
yeah, I volunteered to coach anybody, but I kind of put some method into the madness by saying that so many people within Microsoft, so many, the people whom I work with for my underprivileged kids, etc. I kind of started coaching them and various things. And I think the entire journey, in that entire process, I just felt that I became a much better human being. Because that level of empathy and what I learned in that process became a lot more pronounced. Of course, I mean, giving that ICF ACC certification exam was another nightmare, and it was very, very different. not at all like any of my regular technical certifications. These were very experiential, so and tough, but it was a good journey. So that's how I learned, and how I kind of managed to also take that back within Microsoft was, not everything is by the way of what you learn theoretically, right? Because when you're talking to people, you're doing all these role plays, learning from each other, you're bringing problems across, and you're doing like real life coaching. There was so much that I learned that I kind of, when I told my entire team or the managers at Microsoft as to how to go about it, there were things which they could at least templatize and take across. And say things like, how can you be a catalyst? How can you see things from a different person's lens? How can you just be lazy and let the other person talk and not jump into, I mean, not have that thinker about that monster jumping into your head to give the solution, right? So
very nice. I think one person calls it advice monster, the other person calls it expert's curse, right?
Oh, both of them hold true, totally.
Very good, very good. Now, I'm interested in your perspective, Irina, right? It's a fact there are not too many women who are in sales and sales leaders at that, right?
Yeah,
how can we develop that, Irina?
Yeah, so I think there's a dire need to have many more role models, first of all. And even people who are there as role models also to amplify their narratives, their stories, so that people can get to know two parts of it, that it's a very immersive, and the experience and the journey is truly satisfying, right? So how a person evolved from being, say, what they were doing to being a sales leader. So when I joined Microsoft, I just had Neelam Dhawan, whom I used to look upon as a business sales leader. There wasn't anybody else. And now look around. I mean, there's so many more. So having a lot many more leaders is imperative. The second part I also think is all about this work-life integration. So somewhere there is a little bit of a inhibition for a lot of women that a sales role means I will have to travel much. My time is not within my control. And hence, if I need to balance family and life, how will that happen? And I think the best story that I can talk about this is the fact that I leaned upon my managers, my peer group, my team members at various stages of my life. I had both my kids after I joined Microsoft. My parents are out here, and I've had various points of time when I just had to drop work because I had to be a caregiver across to them. So it goes across that the credibility that you build and the commitment that you bring across, you always have the license to manage your work in life. It is no different. So I think if you are authentic and if you're kind of committed to giving across your 100%, which is irrespective of the job, the sales role also kind of gives across as much. And maybe I think women at certain points of time make as good, if not better, sales leaders also.
Go for it. You're right.
That's good for sure. The latter part, I leave it.
No. I mean, it's true. It's true, because I mean that all of those elements of connection, empathy, etc., it comes naturally, isn't it, Irina?
True.
Right. Very good. I mean, you're more the connector leader, right?
Yes.
Who's able to help others.
Yes.
Very good. Now tell me, let's go a little granular, Irina. Actual sales, right? When you go out, meet customers, engaging, right? How's being a woman more helpful, Irina?
I think you covered one point, the empathy. So somehow the empathy quotient of women tends to be higher, right? 100%. So when you're even meeting a customer for the first time and trying to ideate as to what the solution has to be, you will actually spend a lot more time to know the customer's business problem and what you're trying to solve. That is one, I would say, virtue, which because of which you come out with a solution which will stick to the customer. The second part is also that women happen to be persistent and they solve problems till it is solved. So you will not kind of give it to somebody else. You will give it to somebody else, but you'll follow up with that somebody else to also see that has it been solved.
Very nice. Very nice.
That part comes across in a very, very natural manner that you'll want to see a closure of things when it is happening. And the third part is, I think, see, in a sales role, it's all to do with either you gain share or you gain from compete, whichever way. The persistence which is there for women not to give up on both scenarios. Even if there's a long sales cycle, you will have the patience and the perseverance till the customer feels that, yes, I really need to forge a partnership. Or else, even when you're in the face of a competitive scenario, you are literally going down to the last rungs to figure out what is the competitive differentiator which is there in my solution game to make me a winner. So that eye for detail, going down with that level of persistence, granularity is something I think we tend to do a little more.
Very
maybe.
Nice. Very nice. I mean, I love what you said about sense of ownership, making it sure that you get it across the winning line, right? That's what is important, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very nice. Very nice. With so much happening, Irina has to take care of herself as well.
Totally.
How does she do that? How does she bring the heart, body, mind, and soul together?
So I would say I've been a stickler to fitness for a very long time. So I'm a runner. I've been a marathon runner, and I would say somehow the pandemic, if people ask me about the virtues of the pandemic, one thing that I say that it got my fitness schedule back to the T, because there was no travel which was happening. So there was no more excuse why I can't get up in the morning and not run. So I literally, the first year of the pandemic, I think I ran about 60% of the days. Last year it went up to 75%. And currently in the first 2 months, 6 out of 7 days, I definitely follow my fitness schedules, and which I do like right when I get up in the morning. And that somehow is the zone of the me zone, like what people refer to, because you are with yourself. And I somehow get my most creative ideas, or I mean, a problem solving thing that I need to run, mulling over it, etc. Of course, I do a lot of listening, etc. But when I have to solve for things, that I also just keep myself free. That works. And I'm in this direction of getting much better in my mindfulness journey. So I would say that I'm not so far reached a level where I can call myself as good as I'm in my fitness. So it used to be smaller chunks of time, but starting this year, I've started putting that 30 minutes right when so I've started getting really early. I do that because I think the way the multitasking is needed as a part of your job, the way the distractions happen, and the way the pressures also build up, I literally realized that if you don't do that, you will not get your calm. So how can you create that calm around you? So those are two things which I definitely do.
Is that related to meditation, Irina?
Yes. Meditation. So 30 minutes in the morning, I get into my meditation as well.
Like some wise man said, meditation is about stopping to listen to the noise in the head and starting to listen to the wisdom of the soul.
True.
Right?
True.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I want to be respectful of your time, Irina. It's been an absolute pleasure reconnecting with you. You definitely do know that you have our best wishes. We want to see you far more successful, and let's stay connected, Irina.
Absolutely. It was absolutely a pleasure getting connected and speaking to you as well. Good luck for everything. Thank you so much.